Hi, I'm Michael Parisi, the Loving on Purpose life coach. This time of year brings to mind the joyful memories of Christmas Eve. Now, Christmas Day was always fun. Open those presents, see the tree all lit up, see what surprises Santa Claus and my parents would have gotten me. But then it was the evening that we looked forward to because we would go to East Cambridge, Massachusetts to visit my aunt Angie. She lived in on 14 Warren Street in East Cambridge and right above the tailor shop and dry cleaning shop that she and her husband Peter had started way back in, I think, 1920, maybe earlier. We'd go up the stairs of that 4 story Victorian building on Warren Street. They were external stairs that had been created in order to get to the apartments, creaking and dark, kind of gloomy. But we would get to her door, knock on it, and know that she would always open the door with, "Hi, how are you? What do you want to eat?" Auntie Angie was into feeding the world. She was a small woman. She, in those days, Italian American women, for some reason, always looked like they were 20 years older than they really were. But she worked like a dog all day long in the tailor shop and then would come up during the day, cook lunch for anybody who happened to be around and feed them. Well, we would go into this wonderfully warm place where all my relatives would gather on Christmas evening, the night of Christmas, to just sit around, eat, and play cards. Now, this is just great because it meant several things. It meant, number one, her food was great. She always had pasta or lasagna, meatballs, ham, salads, and so forth. And other relatives would bring food. Lots of desserts, Italian pastry. Oh, I loved my Italian pastries. And as a little kid, I also got the opportunity to watch The Wizard of Oz, which was on every Christmas night for years on television. And Auntie Angie had one of the first color televisions in existence. You remember those? No, maybe you don't remember those. In those days, color televisions had a stripe of blue and a stripe of green and a stripe of red, something like that. That was kind of colored, but not really. It was a very primitive color television, but it was expensive. I remember she was the only one who was able to afford it, apparently. But the best thing about Auntie Angie's house was that she had boxes of chocolates, and I could sneak a chocolate one after another without telling my mother. And I'd always go home with a stomach ache. But that didn't matter because then after the Wizard of Oz was over, we'd ramble off into the kitchen where the table was set for playing cards, and my relatives would sit around and play cards for 5 or 10 cents for poker. I think different kinds of poker they played. And my uncle Peter, who was from Italy originally, from the town in which were from, the Parisis, in Gasparina, he would always be the wise one who really played very well. But the other one who played really well was my Aunt Mary, who is called Chubby. My Auntie Chubby, she would be just as wily as Uncle Peter. The night went on like that. Everyone was in those days smoking and having a drink and having wine, having a good time, and just a great deal of joy and happiness in the warmth of the household. And now here's the sad news. No, almost everybody's passed. They're all gone. I just lost my cousin Eileen, who was my godmother. She just died this past week at the age of 87. She was Eileen's second daughter. So Eileen is gone. All my aunts, all my uncles, most of my cousins, because they were older. They were, for some reason, most of my cousins were much older than I. But the biggest tragedy is that 14 Warren Street where the dry cleaners is gone. Because of probably the COVID virus, my cousin Mark had to close it. Um, that's 100 years where there's no more dry cleaning and tailoring on Warren Street, a tiny street where there were at least two bakeries, a produce shop, a woman who sold slush and penny candy, a couple of bar rooms, and an oil place. Oh, also a sausage factory. All of this was packed into Warren Street in Cambridge. And now the biggest tradition of all is gone. It's been years since we went to see Auntie Angie, of course, at her house. And those nighttime Christmas days are way over. But they keep me going forward. They keep me thinking about how wonderful families can be, keeping up traditions that are just so simple around laughter, food, and drink, playing cards, watching old movies, and lots of chocolate.